tell you why this is so important to me. Because somebody sent me an email and they was mad that I was holding their hometown accountable, right? Y'all don't get mad when people hold individual people within your own community accountable. You ain't tripping if I was to go over there and do a whole expose on somebody that you don't necessarily like. You ain't tripping about Jeezy and Jenny Ma. You ain't flipping out when we start to hold people accountable that's for the community or the people that, you know what I'm saying, have conversations about our money. Shout out to Ash. I'm going to be reading that super chat shortly. But for some reason, y'all feel some type of way. And I don't know if you just got a vested interest in it or not, but you feel a way when people start to hold people accountable that is supposed to be working in your own best interest. The thing that you should be asking yourself is, why? None of us are really asking the right questions. I got stuff that I want to talk about that is so difficult for me to talk about. And it's not even just here on YouTube, right? Because I have these conversations and I leave clues for you guys, right? And the reasons why it's so important for me to leave clues for you guys is because I don't want to get done. And the higher you get, listen, it's easy to have these conversations when you ain't got no subscribers, when you ain't got no traction, when you just in a vacuum by yourself. They're not tripping off of you. When you start to get more visibility, the higher up we go, every day, on average, between Anton Daniels channel and the Millionaire Morning channel, we're going up 20 to 25,000 subscribers a month. 20 to 25,000 subscribers a month. I just crossed 200,000 on the Anton Daniels channel. It's already at like 213, 215. Apparently, the Millionaire Morning Show is going to be crossing 200,000 probably this month. We're going up 20,000, 25,000 subscribers a month. So when you start to grow up a little bit more, I'm starting to notice certain things, right? And what I notice is that certain conversations, even if you put a name in, I did a video yesterday. I'm going to bring it back around. Let me rock for a minute. I did a video yesterday where I was going through the airport. I never said a cuss word. I never said anything out of order. I didn't say anything that would trigger the algorithm. I just put one person's name inside of the title, and it automatically flagged it for review. No monetization, flagged it for review. And it just so happened to be Russell Brand's name. Let me just go ahead and say it because it's Russell Brand, right? Now, Russell Brand has been demonetized, but Russell Brand is an actor / former actor that have now evolved to become a content creator that deals with specific issues within the industry and starting to break down the media and how money playing a role in it and everything, right? But Russell Brand has now been demonetized based off of accusations, right? So when we have these conversations, what I want you guys to start paying attention to is what are the clues that Anton is leaving? Because people are getting removed, demonetized, thrown in jail, all of these different things from things that's going on offline or things that they're doing on platforms that's not even on the platform that they're having a conversation about. And so when I have these conversations, I'm not going to say it to you directly. I want you to start asking yourself a question, right? And this is the last time that I'm going to do this, and I'm prefacing this before we start to get into this. I'm asking you a question. I want you to start asking yourself a question. Why? Why are our borders so open? Why are they allowing for immigrants? And when I say they, I'm talking about Congress, presidents, mayors, legislators, business people. I don't know the answer to it. I'm deep diving. Actually, I have some theories, but I'm unwilling to actually say that until I can get it in proof, because now that we get more visibility, we have to be more responsible with our platform, right? Why is this happening? Why are they? Listen, they will fight you. They will fight you. And you will have to beg, steal, and kill, and you still will never get reparations. I know a lot of y'all, that reparations debate, you see how that died down? You see how nobody is talking about reparations all of a sudden? You see how that's not even an issue? But we have migrants coming on here on busloads. We have an infinite amount of resources that we're allocating over into the military and security of this nation. The biggest thing that we're budgeting for, if you look at the budget that's being proposed, that they're arguing over every single year, and they keep trying to hold up Congress and the Senate and the legislative branches and the president, and they arguing back and forth. We allocate more money, I mean more resources over into our military and our security and our armed forces than any other thing that we're funding inside of the United States of America. I could be off on a couple of different things, but it's an egregious amount of money. How are we not able to secure the borders of the country, but we're able to fight wars across the nation? So when we're looking at this, I don't want you to just look at it from the perspective of, okay, yes, we do need to hold Mayor Brandon Johnson accountable for what's going on over in Chicago. Yes, we need to hold our president accountable. Yes, we need to hold Eric Adams accountable. Yes, we need to hold all of these legislators accountable. Yes, we need to hold ourselves accountable for the people that we put into office. But the question that we have to ask ourselves is, how is this possible and why? Why? It makes no sense. If you explore this in every facet, in every which way that you can start to try to listen, I know I'm a C student. I'm not the sharpest knife in the box, but I have to just the way that my brain works is if I see a problem, I don't just attack the problem. I also have to understand why the problem exists. You know what I'm saying? If you see mosquitoes or bugs start to come into your crib, right? You want to know the source of it. If you start to see bees everywhere, where's the hive at? Why are the bees here in the first place? If you walk over into New York and you compare a rat problem over to the fact that they don't have a rodent problem over in Tokyo, I'm trying to understand why is this happening? You don't just solve for the rat problem. You got to understand why the rats came in there in the first place, right? And so that's what we asking ourselves, and it's leading us to no logical conclusion. And we all just in the dark, and we just scratching our hands like this, and we like, listen, Chicago is $538 million over budget when it comes to this tent city. Why? New York is allocating resources and going into billions of dollars in debt and taking away from their citizens and also getting rid of corporate Airbnb. You can't even get an Airbnb in New York anymore. But they're able to allocate all of this money to house feed, give healthcare coverage, and do stuff to migrants that's coming into the country. How? Why? What is being communicated and what is happening behind the scenes to where we not in the know and we not paying attention somehow? Somehow we asleep at the wheel. I'm very much aware. I deep dive into this stuff. Listen, usually when I come on these live streams, very rarely am I very well researched. When I first started this, I started reacting to different things, and then I would use my own personal experiences and my own business acumen in order to try to solve for and give you guys the lesson as to how you can do things differently or how you can lean into this in order to become more successful. I've been deep diving into this like a madman. I've never been more vested in a subject than the things that I'm talking about on a regular basis. Why are they striking? Why do we got the migrant crisis? Why is crime so out of control? Why, when you go over to Oakland, they still talking about defunding the police and they don't have any resources? Why are they spending more time towards the alphabet community and promoting those agendas than they are allocating for the homelessness problem and the crisis and the businesses that's literally leaving some of the biggest cities in the United States of America and then relocating? Why are we continuing to do this? Why are we putting ourselves under duress on purpose? And how do they continue to convince you to vote for them? Are they creating problems that they then have to solve for themselves and then they're making you interdependent on? I don't know. I have no clue whatsoever. But one thing I'll tell you, and two things is for certain, as we have these conversations, I need you guys to start deep diving a little bit more. Use your critical thinking skills and stop just looking at it on a surface level so that we can start to solve for and understand why you going to be sitting here having a conversation on TikTok and then I'm going to be reacting to you about how inflation is kicking your butt and now you're going homeless because you can't afford to fix your sump pump like the lady that was from the other day. Let's get into it.
Governor Hochul discussed New York's migrant crisis with President Biden yesterday in a conversation she called Very productive.
Okay, meantime, on Staten Island, 10 people were arrested, taken into police custody because they were protesting a new migrant shelter at a former senior living facility on their borough. Briella Tomasetti has more from Midland Beach. I mean, things are starting to get a little disruptive in almost every borough. They don't want them there anymore.
Yeah, and in fact, Rosanna and Bianca, there is a police presence here this morning because those protests last night were so disruptive. Protesters got in front of a bus at one point, blocking it from entering that facility. As a reminder, the city is caring for nearly...
Look, let me tell you the ignorance. Kevin Williams says inflation has nothing to do with the president. Don't worry, I'm going to address that comment. I'm going to make sure that I personally address that comment. I'm going to start and I'm going to address that later on in the show.
60,000 migrants right now. Let's face it, that number is not expected to get smaller anytime soon. Now, Mayor Adams says that he has communicated with the White House about the urgency of the moment, but it's also clear that tensions are rising between the mayor and President Biden. The two did not cross paths yesterday, nor are they expected to today. So now all options are on the table. And yes, one of those options includes a new shelter here on Staten Island. More mayhem on Staten Island during yet another night of intense protests. Police from the NYPD's 122nd Precinct were called to Father Capodanno Boulevard for reports of crowd control issues after demonstrators blocked a city bus thought to be carrying asylum seekers. 10 people were taken into custody. 9 of them were given summonses for disorderly conduct, and the 10th person, a 48-year-old man, is still awaiting potential charges.
Think about this for a second, y'all. People are protesting, ruining their neighborhoods, and then migrant shelters being involuntarily, right? Meaning that it wasn't something that they voted for. It was never something that was a part of the presidential talking points, the mayoral talking points, the city council talking points. And so they're out there and they're saying, listen, we didn't sign up for this. We don't want this in our neighborhoods. We don't want what it is that y'all proposing that we have to subject ourselves to and that our kids have to walk by every day in order to get to school. And you know what the funniest part about it is? They are arresting people left and right. I remember during the pandemic where everybody was supposed to be 6 feet apart. I remember when businesses were trying to open in order to support themselves. And police officers, they were sending in police officers, our governors, our legislators, and the people that were in power, they were sending in police officers in order to arrest business owners for not staying 6 feet apart, right? For opening up businesses against the mandates that was required by the state at that particular time, depending on what state that you were in and what side of the fence they were on, as far as who it is that they wanted to be president and who they wanted to go into Congress and the Senate and all the legislative branches, right? But at the same time, I remember this like yesterday. See, I got a memory of an elephant. At the same time, there were protests all up and down every single major city. They were burning down the auto zones and the Wendy's. They were right next to each other. They were holding hands in solidarity. And all of these people, even the ones that got arrested, first of all, they told them to treat them with kid gloves. Secondly, they told them don't arrest nobody. And almost all of the people, especially in some of these cities that got arrested, they all got off and they all got their charges dropped as a result of it. Now, when you take that into consideration and you compare it, less than 2 to 3 years from there, smaller crowds, less of an issue, things that's more meaningful to what's going to happen in your community. People are peacefully protesting and they arresting people left and right. You can go out there, stand on a car, destroy anything you want over in Illinois and in Chicago, right? And they call them large gatherings. They don't call them riots. They don't call them mobs. You can go over and rob and take everything out of the store in Nordstrom's and shut down what's going on over in San Francisco. But if you peacefully protest inside of your own city about something that you didn't even know was popping up, but they automatically starting to create migrant shelters over there, they arresting you left and right and they charging you immediately. Now, when we start to have this conversation, right? Because again, we gonna hold Eric Adams accountable. We gonna hold all of these different people accountable, right? When we start to have this conversation, when you compare the two, does it make sense is what I'm asking you. Just surface level. Does it make sense? They got more police officers out there than I seen during the protests, and they arresting you left and right for protesting what is going in your neighborhood that you pay taxes for that you never signed up for. I'm not telling you what to think. I'm just telling you to ask yourself the question. I'm not telling you what to think. I'm just telling you to ask yourself the question. As you use your context clues, ask yourself the questions. I can't draw the conclusions for you because I don't have the answers yet, Sway. And if I had the answers, I'm not sure that I could communicate it, Sway. Ask yourself the question.
What provoked these protests? Well, according to SILive.com, a former senior living facility in Midland Beach is the latest migrant shelter to open in the city. Plans to house asylum seekers on Staten Island have drawn fierce pushback from neighbors and lawmakers. Just last month, the borough was at the helm of the city's migrant crisis when St. John Villa Academy, a former Catholic school, was transformed into a 300-bed makeshift shelter. Mayor Adams has slammed the federal government for its lack of help on the issue and says New York City is carrying the weight of a national problem.
I'm very public. Everybody knows who I am. You guys know where I am all the time. We'll release if we're going to be with the president or not.
But
think about this, man. Listen. You know what I see when I see Eric Adams? A puppet. Y'all was fooled because of his background, because he represented y'all, because he was black. I don't see Umar Johnson having no conversation about Eric Adams. You know why? Because he's not equipped to even be able to talk about it. He over there talking about giving lashes to LeBron James and all of these issues that's not really real in our community, talking about all of this nonsense. Meanwhile, they're giving you your leaders and they're telling you you're going to vote them in because it's still a democracy. And at the same time, they saddling you with all of the residual effect that come along with them.
We'll release if we're going to be with the president or not.
But
let's go into what Eric Adams is now saying, right? Let's deep dive into Eric Adams specifically because he's recently went live with the news in order to express his thoughts and his frustrations and first becoming a sanctuary city and allocating all of these resources. And now he wants to hold the president and White House accountable. Let's see what he has to say today.
Adams, I want to switch over to the migrant issue. You recently said that you haven't spoken to the president in months. This is his third and final day in the city here. But he is not meeting with you, and he's not even touring a migrant shelter. After all the city has done in the face of this migrant crisis, he cannot find 5 minutes to meet with you or even tour a shelter. Why do you think that is?
Well, we are in constant communication with the White House. The goal is to get the items that we have identified, and that includes decompression strategy at the border, receiving the...
Listen. Don't let them fool you. Don't let them fool you. Remember, Anton is your chief C student strategist, and I'm going to be the one that breaks this down so that you're not, listen, they're going to use the big words. They're going to say, we're going to use decompression strategies at the border. Translation, we needed to cut it off at the border, and what Trump was advocating for a long time, and the thing that you protested against, and the things that they stood against, all of these blue cities, until it started to hit their doorstep. Now we need to use these big words in order to go over it. Look how fast he said it. Let me replay it for you of what his speech was.
The items that we have identified, and that includes decompression strategy at the border, receiving the funding that we deserve.
That man said that so fast, he acted like it wasn't a comma that was supposed to go in between decompression strategy and it was a comma that was a run-on. I've never seen Eric Adams use a run-on sentence when it came to describing the things that they need to hold themselves accountable for, that they actually advocated against within the media in order to be able to secure your vote. Now he want to talk about decompression strategy at the border. And man, don't skip over it. Say it slow and use words that we can understand. No, we need to close off our borders to people that are coming into the country because we cannot afford to house them, clothe them, feed them, and also provide schooling for them. And all of the constituents in my city saying that they don't want this. That's what he really means. Don't sit there and hit me with no decompression strategy. No. Talk to me like a little child. Help me to understand, what do you mean by decompression strategy at the border?
constant communication with the White House. The goal is to get the items that we have identified, and that includes decompression strategy at the border, receiving the funding that we deserve, calling a state of emergency, allowing people to work. No one should be in this city without the right and authorization to contribute to our tax base. So this is unfair to New Yorkers, and it's actually unfair to the migrants as well.
No. It's been unfair to Texans, Arizonans, New Mexicans, Louisianans, Floridians, Californians. It's been unfair for the entire time, but all of these different states are operating like they their own countries. And don't sit here talking about what's unfair and fair, because listen, we remember, please don't make me pull up the footage again of Eric Adams tweeting that New York will always, and they will always take care of, and they are going to be a sanctuary city. Do not sit here and have that conversation with us now talking about you want to backtrack. This is backtracking at its finest because they don't want to hold themselves accountable.
No one should be going through this, particularly this city and other small municipalities.
Well, while the president may shy away from meeting you face to face, the White House does not shy away from skewering NYC in their response to the migrant crisis, saying that we allegedly have no exit strategy for migrants in shelters. But I know you're trying to change that from a 60-day ruling to now a 30-day ruling for the amount of days that migrants can be in shelters. And this is specific for maybe male migrants.
Well, everything is on the table. Let me say that. Everything is on the table.
Who is that lady next to him? Mayor, New York spends an average of $383 a day per migrant family. Y'all don't even spend that in your own households. Hey, let me ask y'all a question. If you start to do the math, if you look at what's at the bottom, according to what they're saying, right? New York spends an average of $383 a day per migrant family, right? Think about this like this, right? $300 a day equates to the equivalent of $9,000 a month in a 30-day cycle. $300 a day. So you telling me that New York is spending close to $11,000, $12,000 a month per migrant family? Listen, that equates to the equivalent of like $140,000 a year per migrant family in total compensation. Most of y'all don't even make $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year in your salary, and you paying taxes out of that. Come on, man. Are we going to do the math? Or are we going to start? Y'all said that math didn't matter when y'all was in school. Oh, I'm not going to be able to use this anyway. $383 a day, equating to over $10,000 a month. More closer to $12,000 a month. Between $11,000 and $12,000 a month, if my C student mental math serves me correct. Between $11,000 and $12,000 a month is being allocated. They may as well just put the money in their pocket. If you telling me that that's the amount of money that it's costing in order to make sure that these migrants are taken care of and their family, that's insane. And this is your federal legislators. These are your city representatives. These are the people that didn't I tell y'all that it mattered more about what it is that you voted in the local elections than what happened in the national election? Didn't I tell you? Didn't I tell your black ass that it meant more for you to vote in your local election and y'all wanted to have a 13% voter turnout rate, 8% voter turnout rate in y'all cities? Now y'all want to sit here and have a conversation about the migrant crisis?
You're dealing with the crises of managing over 110,000 migrant asylum seekers, in addition to 10,000 a month. We really need to wrap our heads around that. 10,000 a month. And we've witnessed that a substantial number have left our shelter system, but over 60, 70,000 are still there. It's just not moving at the right pace. But the question becomes, why aren't we stopping this at the source? And why aren't we dealing with this as a national crisis that it is?
So Mayor, the first recipients of that 60-day eviction notice have a deadline of this weekend. What happens to those people who are in the shelter system, who already have been notified your 60 days are up?
Well, we were clear they have to reapply, and based on...
Y'all got to give me a second. They got a lot of furniture moving outside of this house with the The garbage trucks is out here apparently emptying the garbage can. They being real loud outside. You know what I'm saying?
Our availability of space.
Can y'all hear all that? That's the garbage truck. Jesus.
We will allow them back into one of our shelters or HERCs, but they will have to reapply.
But that sounds like you're not getting rid of or moving them on to somewhere else.
That's exactly what it is. They're not getting rid of them. They're putting in these false policies and these processes and procedures. And after 30 to 60, 90 days, they'll have to be able to reapply and all of this stuff. But they're not solving for the problem.